Hey there everyone, Jeff here. Welcome back to Imagination Tech. As makers and FPV pilots and content creators like me, we generate massive amounts of data from FPV flight footage, 4K footage like this one for creating these kinds of videos. But most of us are just one accidental drop or drive failure away from losing all of that footage. Today, we're going to be taking a look at this Orico 2-bay DAS to see if this is the budget-friendly safety net that your digital workshop has been waiting for. Stay tuned. So today we're going to be taking a look at this Orico 2-bay DAS, but first let's rewind so I can show you the unboxing. So this is the 4-bay enclosure I've been using since around 2007 or 2008, sometime around that time. It's made by a company called ProBox. I'm not even sure what company that is. I bought this in Japan, so it might be a Japanese company, and it's served me well for the past almost 2 decades. But it finally gave up its ghost, as all tech does eventually. It just suddenly died, or it actually still powered up, but it wouldn't recognize the drives anymore. So maybe something about the motherboard on this thing wasn't working anymore. Maybe some of the capacitors have already failed. So yeah, it died on me sometime last year. And that's why we are going to be unboxing this Orico 2-bay direct accessible storage. So I've ordered from Amazon a couple of times before, but it was always through a freight forwarder based in the US. So basically you use them as your address in the US. Amazon ships your orders to that address, and that freight forwarder brings that my order or the package to my doorstep here in the Philippines. You have to now check a box that says you want it to be boxed in Amazon packaging. Otherwise, if it's already packaged like this thing, they're just going to pop a sticker on there and then they're just gonna ship it straight. No bubble wraps came. There was no bubble wraps when this came. It wasn't wrapped in plastic even, and definitely no cardboard. So let's go ahead and open this thing. It's just one tape and this seal. Okay. So here is the Orico 2-bay direct accessible storage or direct access storage. It takes two drives, so unlike my old enclosure, which could take up to 4 drives, this one just takes 2. So it's nice. It has an aluminum frame, and see that there's the 2 drive caddies over here. What else is in the box? So you have your power adapter. Okay, so it can take from 110 to 240 volts and put out a maximum of 12 volt 4 amps. It's a 12 volt 4 amp adapter. You have your Type-C to USB cable. Actually, this one has an adapter, so it's Type-C on one end, which goes into this thing, and then you can either plug it into your Type-C on your computer, or if you don't have one, you can plug it into the traditional Type-A micro USB. Came with this screwdriver, and so this one plugs into the adapter. Okay, and it also comes with a couple of screws, different size screws. One is slightly longer and one is shorter, and the manual, which is in Japanese. Well, there is an English translation inside the manual, so no problem there, but if there wasn't, it's fine. I can read Japanese. It's also in Chinese, but yeah, my Chinese reading skills aren't up to par yet. Okay, so let's just put this packaging aside. So you push this top cover to open it, and just push it again to lock it. So it's a very simple cover, but it's nice and functional. The feel is very nice. So this is where you would put your 2 drives from the top. They're stored vertically, And over at the back, you have your power button, you have your Type C, and there's also your DC socket here. It's a 2-bay DAS, so it can't get any simpler than this. But sometimes simple is better than, you know, having a very, very complicated setup. So in my case, I just need this for storage. I don't need my files to be accessible throughout, throughout the network. That's already taken care of by my Pi NAS over there. I'm not sure if you can see that on camera, but my Pi NAS is there. If you'd like to know more about creating your own NAS using a Raspberry Pi, then I'll link to that video somewhere. Let's go ahead and install both of our drives onto these caddies. I have my 2 drives here, so we'll need our ports here towards the back. There are screw holes over at the side and even at the bottom. Both of these drives are 6 terabytes each, totaling 12 terabytes, but this thing can handle up to 44 terabytes in total. So if you have massive storage, like if you have 22 terabyte disks, then this thing has got you covered. So we're just going to take some of these screws. Thankfully, this already came with screwdrivers, but if you have a preferred, if you have, you know, a nicer screwdriver, that'll work as well. But, you know, for this job, this thing is more than adequate. Okay, so we have one drive screwed in, and so remember, this is the front, and you would insert your drives like so. You would hear, or you would feel that it, you know, it goes into the connectors, and so yeah, you just slide them in, and that's all set. So just a word of caution: if you forget to screw your drive onto the tray, onto the caddy, you normally push your drive in there until it connects. But when it comes time to remove your drive, you are going to have a little bit of a problem. Not too big of a problem, thankfully, but you know, it's still a problem. So you're gonna have to fish out your drive, and that's not gonna be a pleasant experience. Make sure that you always screw in your drives before you put it into the Orico 2-bay DAS. Okay, so let's go ahead and plug this into our laptop. This can plug in here. Okay, and then we'll take our adapter, our 12-volt adapter, plug that in. Let's press the power button. Okay, so the drives are starting up. Okay, so here's our media drive and our 6 terabyte drive. Yeah, it seems to be working. I mean, it's just a 2-bay enclosure, so why wouldn't it work? Speaking of which, I need to transfer some files between these 2 drives. Right, so transfer speeds between these. By the way, this is a Skyhawk and a Barracuda, so these are pretty much, you know, quite fast drives. So I'm transferring files between them. I am getting around 120 megabytes per second. That's pretty fast. We'll try transferring files from the drive to my laptop as well as vice versa. Let's try to transfer this 2.8 gigabyte file, 0.76 gigabyte file to the drive. Let's just put it here. The write speed is pretty fast at around 180 megabytes per second. That's really not bad at all. Didn't belong there, so let's put it back from that drive back to this drive. So now it's actually transferring pretty quickly at around 190 there. As you can see, it really peaks out at around 180, 190 megabytes per second. It also has a smart sleep function, so when you're not using one of the drives or both of the drives, then it puts the drive to sleep, thereby saving a little bit on electricity and a little bit on the wear and tear, since the drives aren't spinning their platters. So that's good. At least if you can continue plugging it in. If you forget, to turn this off or disconnect it from your computer or from your laptop, then it's going to sleep on its own. But in my experience, even with this old one, if you disconnect it from your laptop, it's going to go to sleep by itself. Yeah, there. So when you want to eject the drive. Okay, so nice. It ejects as a whole, so you don't have to eject each drive one at a time. So I think it's the same with most enclosures. It was the same with my old enclosure, where you just eject the whole device and not each drive one at a time. So when you eject the Orico 2-bay DAS, it ejects both drives at the same time, which makes sense. So yeah, once you eject that, you can just unplug it from your computer. And are there any light indicators? Okay, so there are light indicators here up front. So there's this one on the rightmost is for power, this one is for disk 1, and this one is for disk 2. It's pretty quiet that I forgot that it has a fan built in, and it's supposed to keep your drives cool, which is a must if you want to make sure your drives last for a really long time. As an added bonus, because it's Type-C, you can also plug it into your phone. I've had this Orico 2-bay DAS for about 2 weeks now, and as I was editing this video, I accidentally crashed both 6TB drives that were installed on the Orico enclosure. And I think what happened was, so you can safely eject the drives and you can unplug it. I think I still had the enclosure turned on when I started swapping the drives, and that corrupted the master file table, I think, or the boot sector. So the files were physically still on the drive. They were still perfect. They were not corrupted in any way. But the partition itself, the master file table, that became corrupted. So Windows does not know what files were on the drive. This is not a fault of the product. This is a very common occurrence with any enclosure that you might have. Just a warning that you want to be extra cautious when handling external drives or external enclosures. Not just the Orico 2-bay DAS, but whatever you're using. I have two 6TB drives. One 6TB drive had around 5.5 terabytes, and this was the Imagination Tech YouTube files. And the other had just over 1 terabyte of data, and that was just my personal files, pictures of me and my wife, wedding photos, and our travels together. So those were still pretty important, but at least it was small. So what I did was I took the 6TB drive with just 1 terabyte of data. I took an older drive and I used an application called RStudio. So this is you can download it for free. You can check if it can read your files, and it did a fantastic job at reading my files. Everything was still on there. I got the paid version, the RStudio NTFS, because my drives are NTFS. But you can get a version of RStudio that can handle any file system type rather. For a little bit more. Was able to extract all of the files on that 6TB drive onto my extra hard drive, as well as sync it directly to Google Drive, which I paid around $3, or less than $3, or 149 pesos per month for 2 terabytes on Google Drive. That's a promo price for your first 2 months, and then I'll probably migrate to something like iDrive, which has 10 terabytes. The more important, the personal files out of the way, I was able to format the 6TB drive, and I took the other 6TB drive that had the Imagination Tech YouTube files on it, and I recovered those files onto the other 6TB drive. So now I have 2 copies of my YouTube videos. If you're looking at an enclosure, you're probably also tech savvy enough to know that you need backups, plural. Okay, so there is this, they call this the 3-2-1 grounding principle. You need to have 3 copies on 2 different media and 1 offsite backup. So that delayed the editing of this video because I had to wait several days for all of the files to be recovered. It was pretty fast. The drives are quite fast, but there's a lot of files, and it's like several terabytes, 5.5 terabytes only for the YouTube data, and another terabyte for my personal files and uploading them to Google Drive. The good thing about having the Orico 2-bay DAS when this happened was that I could quickly recover files from both 6TB drives in one enclosure. So, and the transfer speeds were really fast. So I was, recovering these files as fast as my computer and the hard drives could handle it. The recovery of 5.5 terabytes of data, it didn't even take 24 hours. Probably like 16 hours, maybe less than 16 hours to recover all of that data. Anyway, that was my very scary adventure. I've just finished, actually yesterday I just finished backing up everything. So now I'm in a more secure place. My backups are in place for the time being, but I'm planning to increase the backup situation even further, right? So anyway, back to the video. The Orico 2-bay DAS definitely offers a lot of value for the price, especially if you're looking for a simple way to back up your data and you don't like the complexity of a NAS. But you need to understand its limitations before you entrust it with your entire backup. If you have a favorite storage setup or backup solution, I'd like to hear about it in the comments below. So thank you for watching, make sure you keep your data safe, and I'll see you in the next one.